I can minister. And so we're going to do that again. I want everybody to repeat after me. 1, 2, 3. I can minister. Do it again. Say it like that. I can minister. And so we take this phrase and we turn it into a question. Because when you say the word minister, you think of different things. And I mentioned this last week. I had some really cute little pictures of people. And so sometimes when you say the word minister, you think of a prime minister like Benjamin Netanyahu or someone from a government in another country. Or you think of the minister, that pound the pulpit preacher that puts an A on the end about every third word. I never was that guy. I had a picture of a guy who was a Presbyterian minister, and they have the robe and the pretty sashes, and I think those guys are cool because they get to wear really cool looking stuff, and I think that's kind of neat. And so those are different types of ministers, and so when we use the word minister, that's kind of what we generally think of as people who are preachers or pastors or something of that nature. But today we're going to do something different. We're going to go about this a whole different way, and you're never going to figure out how this, well, you may figure out how this ties in, but it's going to not seem like it's going to tie in when I start, but I promise you if you stay with me to the end, it's going to tie in. And so I've got some pictures this morning we're going to look at, and I want us to identify these objects. This is not hard. It's not a trick. There's nothing fancy to it. It's very simple. It's not difficult. So if you know what these things are, I want you to go ahead and say what they are. So first of all, we have this. What is that? Parking meter. Very good. Those of you who don't know what that is, if you don't put money in it, you'll get one of these guys to give you one of those things, and that's a parking ticket. And then they'll impound your car, and it'll cost you $1,000 or more to get it out. Anybody know what this is? Anemometer. Who said that? Very good. Anemometer. What does an anemometer do? It measures wind speed. Gives you a reading on wind speed, how fast the wind is blowing. Alright, what is this? Water meter. That's a water meter. How much water you used? If you look around here, you use a lot. You can say that. Use a lot. What do we have here? Thermometer. Notice I got one that was up over 100 degrees because it's been hot. I feel that's applicable to us. Thermometer tells us what the temperature is. It reads temperature. What is this? This guy standing next to here, this nice looking young man. Standing next to an electric meter. I don't know if he's an electrician or not. Looks kind of shady. Not real sure about him. But he's standing next to the electric meter, got his hand up on it. It's what you pay energy or MCEC with. And lastly, this is the most difficult one. Anybody know what that is? No. Barometer. I don't know who said it first. That's the barometer. It measures barometric pressure in the air. And by measuring barometric pressure and other things, you can tell kind of sort of what the weather might be like. And if you're any good at it, then you might get to be a meteorologist. And if you're not, you don't. I don't know how that works because I'm not one. And so we looked at all these different meters. All these different kinds of meters. A barometer and a parking meter and an electric meter and a water meter and a thermometer and all those different things. And so what's one thing they have in common? All these things do one thing in common. They measure something. They measure something. They take a measurement. They read something. They measure something. And so here we go. Here's the trick. We're going to tie this into being a minister this morning. And I know this is not going to be easy to do. So just follow me as best you can. It's not going to be the easiest connection in the world to make. Because right now you're going, wow, so how's a parking meter like being a preacher? No, we're not doing it that way. And so we started talking out last week. And it was a very short little 5-10 minute little spill to introduce this week of what a minister is. And so we look at the word minister. And we think, preacher, pastor, prime minister, pope, somebody like that, a minister. And so if you want to go back to the original minister, you go back to Jesus. In my opinion, you go back to Jesus. Now, you can go further back in the Old Testament and Joshua and Moses, and you can go way on back to Abram and all that. But we're going back to Jesus this morning as a minister. We're going back to Jesus as a minister. And so Jesus did several things. And you can boil Jesus' ministry down to one phrase in one sentence. And it's exactly what I told the kids this morning. Jesus met the needs of people. He went out and he met the needs of people. What would that make Jesus? A need meter. Oh, so it almost makes sense now. That made Jesus a need meter. He went out and he became a need meter. And it's so simple. It's so simple to be like Jesus if you look at it from this standpoint. To be a need meter. What did Jesus do? He saw people with needs and he went out and he met their needs. Our scripture this morning, that's kind of what we're talking about, where he goes and calls Matthew. And it says, as Jesus went on from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at the tax office and he said to him, "Follow me." So he got up and followed him. Now, everybody always wants to preach that and read that as Matthew just doing what Jesus said with no questions asked. He just gets up and goes. I want you to look at it from a different perspective this morning. I want you to look at it like this. Did Jesus know that Matthew had a need to follow him? I believe he did. I believe Jesus knew that Matthew had a need to follow him. That's why he called him. He went out and he met that need. Matthew was there. Matthew was one of the most hated men in that place because he was a tax collector. And anytime sinners are mentioned biblically, tax collectors are always in their own bracket. Sinners, publicans, tax collectors, always by themselves because nobody wanted to be a tax collector. They were the worst, lowest people you could be at that point. And so he was mentioned different from everybody else. And Jesus specifically went and called Matthew, I think, because he knew that Matthew needed to be called. Matthew needed Jesus to help him. Matthew needed that change in his life and that call upon his heart. We go on, verse 10 says, after Matthew followed, it says, while he was reclining at the table in the house, this was Jesus at Matthew's house, while he was reclining at the table in the house, many tax collectors and sinners came as guests to eat with Jesus and his disciples. Now let me ask you this. When was the last time that we invited sinners and tax collectors to come meet with us? When was the last time we invited sinners and tax collectors to come meet with us? It's hard one to answer, isn't it? Here's an even better one. When was the last time we went to a sinner, tax collector, to be with them? Because that's what Jesus did. Jesus went to Matthew's house, who was a tax collector, one of the vilest of sinners. Jesus went to Matthew's house, where he was. Matthew's friends, his associates, he really didn't have friends because he was a tax collector. His associates came, other sinners came, tax collectors came, and they showed up at Matthew's house where Jesus went. And so, do we invite people to church? We invite people to church. I invite people to church. You guys, I hope, invite people to church. You know, we invite people to church. But how often do we go to those people? How often do we go and meet them on their terms and their needs, instead of trying to get them to bring their needs to us? How often do we go meet their needs? Because that's really what it boils down to. Last week I said minister. I don't even like the word. I like the phrase need meter. And the way you spell meter is not even a real word, so I made it all up. Need meter. When was the last time we as a people went out and met someone's needs? When was the last time we didn't say, hey, I would like for you guys to come to our church, but we said, hey, can we come over to your place? Hey, I would like for you guys to come see us on Sunday morning or Sunday night or Wednesday night, but hey, what are you guys doing Saturday afternoon for dinner? Hey, what are you guys doing Friday night during the ball game? We'll come and watch the ball game. Come hang out. When was the last time we did what Jesus did? Because this is where the rubber kind of meets the road, isn't it? We can sit back all day and say, well, I'm a Christian because I love God and I've been saved and I've been baptized and so I have Christ in me and so I'm a Christian. But when was the last time we acted like Jesus? When was the last time we did that? Because I'm guilty of it too. I don't stand up here and just say things to just say things about people, because the things I generally say are things that I am guilty of. There are things that are on me that I need to hear me say. It goes on. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? Like I said, two different brackets of people. Tax collectors and sinners. Why does your teacher do this? They want to know, why does Jesus do this? Why is he hanging out with these bad people? Why is he hanging out at this bad place with all these bad people, inviting other bad people to come hang out at this bad place with him? Because he's not bad. Why would he do that? Why would he want to have dirty, nasty sinners around him? Because he's holy, the Son of God. If you guys are right about what you're saying, about what he's declared about himself, he's this holy Jesus person, and he's the Messiah, and he's the Son of God, and he's pure and clean. So why is he hanging out with all these dirty people? Because that's what Jesus did. Jesus hung out with dirty people. Jesus didn't go to church and hang out with a bunch of pretty dressed up, clean church people. I know this is overwhelming and shocking to you. Jesus went and hung out with dirty people. He hung out with dirty sinners. That's what he did. He went to them, and you can look in your Bible and you can find example after example after example of Jesus going to sinners. He didn't go out and hang a sign up in the middle of town or on the town gate and say, hey, all you dirty sinners, come see me at church. Jesus went out and said, hey, Zacchaeus, come down out of the tree. I'm going to your house. Matthew, follow me because I'm going to your house. Jesus didn't say, hey, Matthew, follow me, we're going to church. Zacchaeus, Wednesday night, be at church. That's not how he did it. Jesus said, I'm going to your house. Follow me, I'm going where you are. And these Pharisees, these men who were supposed to be of the law, they were supposed to know everything. They were like the super smartest of the smart. They had all this 630 laws. They knew them letter for letter and word for word, and they didn't observe them because they kind of made them and oversaw them, but they knew them all. They knew all these 630-something laws of the land, of the Jewish religion, and so they said, why is he doing this? They were the smart guys. And the disciples didn't even have a chance to answer this. They didn't have an opportunity to answer the Pharisees, and Jesus heard it. Because I feel certain Jesus knew they were going to say this. And Jesus knew they needed to hear what he was going to say. And he said, those who are well don't need a doctor, but the sick do. And I read that, and I think that is the simplest statement I've ever found biblically in my entire life as a human being. Jesus, why are you with these sinners and these dirty people? Because they're dirty, and they need cleaned. Jesus, why are you with these sinners? Because they're sinners and they need to be made righteous. Jesus, why are you with these dirty, nasty, sinning people? Because that's what I came to help. What about us? We're the Pharisees. We know, no, I didn't come to help you because you won't hear me. You think you know everything already. Your eyes are shut and your ears are closed and your mind is locked down and you won't understand anything I say because you're all about this old law. He gets into this. And so he says, those who are well don't need a doctor, but the sick do. Go and learn what this means. Jesus said that for a specific reason. Because these men were extremely learned, intelligent, bookly, scholarly. Gamaliel was one of the greatest Pharisees ever who taught Paul everything he knew. These men were very, very, very intelligent men. Jesus said, go and learn what this means. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. Why would he say that? That's all they knew was sacrifice. 630-something laws they'd had forever and ever since the beginning of time. Abraham, God gave the laws to Moses. Moses led the people out of Egypt. The people got to Canaan, to the promised land, and they're like, all right, here we are. Here's our stuff. What do we do? Well, here's the 630 laws. Here they all are. Let's lay it all out right now. And so they had all these laws they had to follow. All these rules they had to keep up with. All these obligations and all these different feasts and different offerings for this and offerings for that, and the tabernacle and this offering and that offering. And if I sin, if this is the sin, if you sin against your brother, if you sin against your parents, and here's this sin and that sin. 630-something laws they had to abide by. And you know what all those laws had in common? A sacrifice. Everything they did in the Old Testament, all the Old Testament rules and regulations of the Jewish religion had a sacrifice involved with it. If you wanted to be cleansed, you had a sacrifice. If you wanted to be made pure, you had a sacrifice. Atonement, sacrifice, tabernacle, sacrifice, feast, sacrifice. Everything had a sacrifice involved. It was all about giving blood for something. Giving blood for something you've done wrong. Jesus said, I desire mercy. I desire mercy. So what is mercy? Mercy, I would define personally, I'm not Webster or any of those people. I would personally define mercy as an unwarranted, undeserved favor from another. An unwarranted, undeserved favor from another. Because that is what God gives us. Unwarranted, undeserved favor in His eyes. Yeah, but I just sin. What did Jesus say? I didn't come for the righteous, but sinners. But I just sinned. That's good. That's what Jesus came for, was you. But I just sinned. That's okay. Jesus came for sinners. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. I desire mercy and not sacrifice. See, Jesus can't be satisfied by what we do. It's not our works. It's not our this. It's not. Jesus can only be satisfied by what He did. God cannot be satisfied by our works, by our sacrifice and kill this animal and that animal. God is satisfied through the mercy given us by Jesus Christ. That's why Jesus said, I desire mercy and not sacrifice. For I didn't come to call the righteous, but sinners. He didn't come looking for everybody that knew what they were doing. He came for the lost. And you look at the word lost, and you can define it several different ways. You can define lost as someone who doesn't know where they're going. You can define someone who doesn't know Jesus Christ. That's what we define it as Christians. Someone who doesn't know Jesus is lost. But you can define someone who doesn't know Jesus, where they're going. Someone who doesn't know the directions. Someone who refuses to stop and ask for directions. All these things are lost. Someone who's somewhere in unfamiliar territory where they don't need to be. Those people are lost. And you know what? Every one of those definitions is exactly what Jesus came for. People that need direction. People that don't know where they're going. People that don't know where they are. People that don't know where they're headed. People that don't know Jesus. All those people are lost. And they're all sinners. And that's what Jesus came for. And so to become a minister, what you have to do is you have to become a needs meter. A needs meter. No, M-E-E-T-E-R. I totally made that word up. It's totally incorrect grammar. It's not really a word. It's worse than saying ain't. So when your mama says don't say ain't, you can say, look, I could say needs meter. Preacher said it. And it's even worse than saying ain't. It's a horrible word. It doesn't even make sense. I made it up totally, completely. It's my word. It's trademark, copyrighted, express written consent to use it. It's improper grammar and it's not right. But then when Jesus came to dine with these sinners and these tax collectors, according to the people that made the laws and the rules, he wasn't right either. He was wrong. What he did was wrong. It was improper. It wasn't correct. You're not supposed to do that. Those are bad people. Jesus said, that's what I came for. So I like this word, needs meter. How do you become a needs meter? And there's two aspects of the phrase needs meter we're going to look at this morning. First of all, how do you become a needs meter? Man, I don't know. That's tough because when you say minister, you know, that's not real definitive. You say minister, and that can mean like a lot of different things. But you say needs meter, and that's like I have to find like an actual need and then go physically do something for that need. And so it makes me uncomfortable, and I have to get out of my little shell and my little bubble, my little place where I live, and I have to go to someone else, and I have to do something. It's hard. It's not easy, and I can't just say, come to church, and I can't just read my Bible, and I got to go do things for people. That's difficult. See, when you use the word needs meter, it means that you're performing some type of action. You're going and doing something. Maybe something very simple. It may be just going to comfort someone. It may be just going to take someone dinner. It may be just going to say hi, but it may mean more to them than you'll ever know. It may just be telling someone who's down, hey, cheer up. Telling someone who has low self-esteem, you know what? You're a beautiful person. Telling someone who doesn't know the way, here's the way. It can be so simple. It can be extremely complicated, but it can be extremely simple. It can be a thank you note. It can be a card. It can be anything. But it's physically doing something. When you say needs meter, it becomes an action word. And you have to get up and you have to go do something. And that makes us uncomfortable as people. When we use the word minister, it's associated with church, isn't it? And so we can say minister. Well, I'm a minister at the church. I serve in this ministry at the church. That would make me a minister if I served in this ministry at the church. And so if you serve in this ministry at the church, and you're just kind of like, I'm a part of this ministry. And it really doesn't demand action. But when you say I'm a needs meter, that means I do something. That means I go out and I like help people. And people have problems and like I got to go solve them and help them and offer them advice and assistance. And it's hard. It takes time. It's difficult. And not one time in any of Jesus' teaching, anywhere in the New Testament, you can go from Matthew to Revelation, and not one time did Jesus use the phrase, it shall be easy. Nor did Jesus use the phrase, it shall be fun. Nor did Jesus use the phrase, you shall enjoy it. Jesus did use the phrase, you will be persecuted. Jesus did use the phrase, broad is the gate, wide is the way that leadeth unto destruction. Narrow is the gate. Narrow is the gate. It's hard. Being a needs meter is hard. Final aspect of being a needs meter. Back where we started. I want to go back to all this and talk about all this. Go back to all these meters we looked at. A parking meter. You put money in it. You park there for X amount of time. It measures how long you're there. If you don't come back, fill it back up. Then somebody writes you a ticket. They have like fancy cities, big cities where they have a lot of parking meters. They've developed them now where you can use your credit card and your phone to pay for it, and it'll send you a notification on your phone that says, hey, your meter's going to expire in 5 minutes, you better go pay it. You're like, oh, I got to pay my meter. You can pay it on your phone so you don't get a parking ticket. There's no reason anymore to get them. But it measures something. It takes what you're doing and it gives it a level of how it's performing. We talked about an anemometer. This is even a hard word for me to say. You should have seen me trying to look that one up on Google. It took 30 minutes to find what I was trying to find. But it measures wind speed. You can take it. The old-timey ones were like little round half cups or half circles, half balls on little sticks. And there's 3 of them. They spun around. It tells you how fast the wind's blowing. It measures something. Water meter. It measures how much water you use, how much water flows through that pipe, how much water comes through there, how much are you using in your household. A thermometer, it measures temperature, be it of the outside, be it of you personally, be it of the thermostat on your wall in your house, be it of the turkey in the oven for Thanksgiving. It measures temperature. It measures something. Electric meter. It measures how much electricity you use in your home or in your office or in your church or wherever you are. A barometer measures the pressure in the atmosphere, the barometric pressure in the atmosphere to kind of help predict the weather and stuff. So here's the real question about over all the stuff this morning. Here's how I tie all this in. All these things measure something. A meter measures gas, water, miles, time, whatever, when it's activated. When you activate a meter, it starts measuring and reading something. If we were sitting here today in this church house, these four walls under this roof, fans going, air conditioner blowing, I'm standing up here talking. And all of a sudden God walked in that back door. And God said, I need everybody to line up. Because I've got my need meter out. And I'm going to see how you've been doing. And I'm going to measure you and your ability to meet others' needs with my needs meter. And if God showed up to us as individual people, walked down this aisle and stood right here in front of this communion table and said, I need everyone to form a line. I'm going to check you with my needs meter to see how well you're doing at meeting the needs of other people. How would we do? If God tested our need meeting with His needs meter, how would we do? If it were poor, fair, good, excellent, where would we fall in God's needs meter? Do we do a poor job of meeting needs? I don't do an excellent job. Do we do a poor job of meeting needs? Do we do a fair job of meeting needs? Do we do a good job of meeting needs? And you can ask yourself this question, how do I do it meeting needs? Because that's what Jesus did. And you can lay all kinds of qualifications and rules and writings and things out about Jesus' ministry, but Jesus met needs. It's the bottom line. He met people's needs. He was a need meter. And so if God showed up today and broke out His needs meter, how would He measure our needs meeting? Yeah, that's some weird little words I threw together right there. How would God measure our needs meeting? See, it's not my desire that anybody should ever have to go to God and God say, look, you really haven't been doing a very good job for me. You really haven't done what you're supposed to. Let me plug you into the needs meter and you stick your finger in like one of them blood pressure machines, you know, at Walmart or something where the thing tightens up in your arm. You start to panic because you're afraid it's never going to let go and you're going to be trapped there. That's what happens to me and then my blood pressure's always high. I think they do that on purpose just so you will be and you'll be like, oh, I got to go to the pharmacy and get some medicine. It's a big conglomerate, I think. But if you put your finger in that little pulse thing or like the pulse ox things they have at a hospital, isn't that what they're called, pulse ox? I hope it is. They clamp one of those pulse ox things on your finger, and God said, this is going to see, this is a needs meter, and it's going to measure how well you're meeting the needs of other people. Would you be scared? Would you be nervous about that? Would you be nervous if God came back to see how we were doing His needs meters? Because I would be a little nervous. I'm not going to lie. I'd be a little bit nervous. I don't know that I'd want to stand in front of everybody and let God measure my needs meeting ability. I'm not going to lie. Because there are some days that I'm like, man, I've done good today. There's some days like, man, I've done horrible today. There's some days like, man, I've helped this person, this person, this person, this person. I'm doing really good today. There's some days I go, wow, it's not a good day. It's not a good day at all. So if God measured our needs with His needs meter, how would we do? That's the question we're asking this morning. That's where we're at. Now we're going to have a verse of invitation here in just a minute. And I want you to think about this as we sing these songs, and as we stand up here and we sing, I believe we're singing Just As I Am. And as we come to this conclusion, and this morning, this message, and we say, Just As I Am, you know, we come to God just as we are, because we're dirty sinners, and that's what Jesus came looking for. He came looking for dirty sinners. Call it what it is. And once we're no longer dirty sinners, and we're cleansed by the righteousness of Jesus Christ, and made whole by the blood of Jesus Christ, and brought into a relationship with God through the blood of Jesus Christ, we go from being dirty sinners to needs meters. So how well are we doing with that? Everybody stand this morning. Share this, Lord, if y'all come forward. Stevie, you are a verse of invitation. If you're here today and you don't